in the process of piecing together a backup power system for mainly our sump pump in our basement, because if the power goes out and our sump pump isn't running, we're gonna flood real quick here. So what I have so far is just a deep cycle battery, an inverter, a transfer switch which automatically transfers from our normal power to this inverter power, and then this is a solar charge controller. I also got a solar panel, and then this is a battery charger for house power and the power cables for the inverter. So how this is going to work is when we have power, the battery will be topped off with this battery charger. Just you plug this in to your outlet and connect these to the battery, and it just tops the battery off and keeps it charged. And then when we lose power, if we ever do lose power for an extended period of time, we have a solar panel to also help charge the battery. I might just see how the solar panel does without this. We might not even need that. Maybe just for the winter months when we don't have a lot of sun, but I'm hoping the solar panel will be able to just maintain the battery. So all I've done so far is add a fuse to this wire here. This goes from the battery to the inverter. You want to put the fuse as close to the battery as possible, because the power is coming from the battery traveling through the wire. So if there's a surge, you don't want a lot of wire to be burning up. If it was traveling through all this wire here, it would just burn it up and cause a fire. So got the fuse there, and then now I'm just working on the transfer switch. This is where I'll be plugging our sump pump into to get. So I'm going to be adding this female onto this end here. This plugs into the AC power, so just right into the outlet. So it'll be mainly powered from the AC, but then when the power goes out, this will be plugged in to the inverter, and then it'll automatically draw power from the inverter and the battery system. So I'm working on wiring that up, and then this is just for the solar. The wires from the solar panel. There's a black and a red wire that will attach to the back of the solar panel. These are rated for UV, so I can run these outside without protecting them really. I'll probably still just wrap both of them inside of this stuff just to protect it a little more. So I have a short run. I'm going to mount the solar panel on my shed roof and run it into the basement into here. And then this, I'm going to run 2 more wires to the battery from this port, these ports, and then this is just basically a little bit of power to hook up a light so you can work on it if the power's out. And then there's 2 USB ports where you can charge small devices. And then this inverter has, so once this transfer switch is plugged in, and we'll have 3 other outlets to use on here and a USB port, but then I can also eventually put in basically like a little fuse box with one of these, I forget what they're called right now, but it's like a bus or whatever I can screw multiple wires, like a circuit basically. So I can have multiple connections. I can run wires throughout the house for emergency lighting or just little things like that for when the power's out. So it'll automatically turn on right when the power goes out, just like a generator would. So this is basically just a solar generator. We can always add, well, it's like, yeah, it's a solar system that any RV would have really, but it's just a smaller, well, actually this is a 3,000 watt inverter. I think most RVs have a 2,000 watt. I just got the bigger one so we could use it for more than just the sump pump. When the power goes out, maybe we can plug in a little mini fridge and keep some food from spoiling or little things like that. So we will probably need to expand our battery bank in that case, but I just wanted to start this off and show you the beginning process, and then I'll update it as I go along. So this is where we're at right now. That's all wired up. This one's nice, it's got a little rubber gasket there. And then I also got some more wire for this end where I need to run it to an outlet. I'm going to have to splice these wires together, and I'm planning on using these connectors. You just put the wire in each end and use the crimp end here and just crimps it on there strong, and then I'll put a heat shrink around the outside of it. Here it is all crimped together. Now I'm just gonna apply the heat shrink tubing and apply some heat to that and shrink it up, and I'll show you that. So here's what I came up with. The heat shrink tubing was just like the same exact length as the space I had to cover, so I had to put a little tape at the ends of it. So alright, so this is the transfer switch, fully wired. This is what I left off with last clip, just getting this all secure. Not the best, but it's a lot better than some other options and should be really safe. So then I went on the end of that and just put in a male plug to go into an AC outlet. So this goes to the outlet, this goes into the inverter, and this will be for where I plug the sump pump in. And like I said, this is just a switch that automatically converts when the power goes out from our AC power. It'll automatically draw from the inverter power. Alright, after I got that transfer switch wired up, I realized my next step was to mount everything, and we'll figure out where everything should be mounted. I have to plug the transfer switch into the inverter up here, so this is a good spot for that, and then this is the AC power cord for the transfer switch, which I have an outlet over here for. So that's why I had to add that extension right there from before. And the sump pump plugs in right here. So this is that end. Just make sure it actually reaches. Yeah. Got some spray foam on there, but yeah, it'll reach. So I'm prepping the solar panel to mount on my shed roof. I put these brackets on the side, and now I'm gonna cut this wire like back here so the connection's back behind the solar panel, and because it comes with this connection, which I don't need for my charge controller, so I'm gonna splice in these wires I showed you before that I got that are UV resistant and meant for outdoors. So I'm going to attach them to there with this again and heat shrink tube, and then run them inside and wire it in, and I'll update you with that. Alright, there it's connected together and heat shrunk. So now I can go up and install the panel on the roof, and then bring the wires in and wire it into first the battery. First I have to wire the battery to the charge controller, and then I can wire the panels to the charge controller. I guess you have to wire the battery first, because if the solar panels are hooked to the charge controller without being connected to the battery, it'll burn up the charge controller with the power coming from solar panels. So wire the battery first. The panel's mounted now. All I have to do is finish routing the wires. I just came around and used some clamps there, and then I'm going to go over and staple it to the house with wire staples and run it in the hole I drilled. So I'll post an update on that. I just have to go in and pull them tight now and cut off the excess and start wiring it together. There's our wires. I came in right there. I decided to just do this. So I was gonna go in like across from the shed over there, but I would have had to drill holes up through all these or just route it somehow through the house. So I just decided to do that, what I did outside, and just gonna pull them in now and get them all set. Get them like nice and tight and organized, and then start wiring it together. Just wired up this inline fuse into the cord that will be going from the battery to the charge controller. So that's my next step, is to wire from the battery to the charge controller. Then I can wire in the solar panels to the charge controller, and then I can basically finish this up. I just have to also wire battery to inverter. Alright, so it's finally wired up. There's two wires I didn't mention before because I just discovered as I was going along that I really needed grounding wires for the inverter and for the negative terminal on the battery. I had to go get grounding rods, which are 8 feet long, and I had to pound them in the ground 6 feet, which sounds crazy, but it's really not that bad. So definitely do that. It's all wired in to the charge controller. I have a fuse there that I talked about, this inline fuse, and then 350 amp fuse for the inverter. I don't have the battery charger in right now. Just gonna see how the solar does to charge the batteries for a while and just use that when we need to. And so let's test it out. Over and cut the power off at the panel. Alright, cut all the power off now. Just gonna try it out. Hopefully it works. Wow, I can't even describe how excited I am about that. It works. I'm just super relieved. I'm proud of myself because this is like the most complex thing I've ever built, even though the concept of it's pretty simple, but actually doing it all is another thing. This video was made for entertainment purposes only. I'm not condoning anyone to follow these steps, but if you do choose to, just take the proper precautions and be careful. If this is something you think you need for your home, which I'm sure there's a lot of homes that flood and storms and their power goes out, I think this is a really great practical option for that, but just know what you're doing, know what you're getting into, and definitely hire someone if you need to, and follow all the local codes. One more thing I want to add here that is actually on the way is a battery meter, or just like, it's a little screen that just shows the life of the battery and how charged it is. So that'll probably mount here, and that's just hasn't arrived yet, but so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below if you have any questions. Let me know and I'll try to help you out. Thank you.